Go.
Okay, I'm James Curry, the gentleman that donated this 52 acres to the Curry Nature Center. And what we're going to do today is just walk the trail. Originally, the trail was right at a mile, the main trail, but recently we've come in and added what I call a creek trail, where we go off of the main trail, where we can get into the woods and see some really nice views and native plants, and it comes along here and goes along the creek and comes out here at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and walk that and point out some of the features. We're headed down the entrance of the trail, and several of the master naturalists had put up some stakes of some of the native plants. Is that one over there?
One of them there.
And that was the Mexican hat that was growing here. But we're going to have to come back with some more substantial metal stakes that are drilled in the ground to make sure they don't get knocked down by animals, deer, whatever. What is this plant right here?
This is a mealy blue sage.
Okay.
It's a native Texas plant. It's a pollinator plant. It will attract butterflies, probably bees too.
Uh-huh. And it's pretty much blooms year-round, or?
It blooms from about April through October. It's coming to the end of its season now, but it's a perennial, so it will come back.
Okay. Okay, let's go on down, and as we see stuff, we'll point it out. Now, I don't know, were these Mexican hats here?
These were Mexican hat.
Okay.
These, but they're all gone to seed now.
Yeah, and so they're just going to reseed themselves, probably?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're also a perennial. They'll come back.
Okay. Yeah, we're coming in to the fall of the year, so when the wildflowers are going to be the best in the spring, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there are some wildflowers in the meadow areas down here, but there aren't a lot along the trail.
Okay, okay.
Here.
Okay, now what type of yucca is this?
It's just a regular red yucca.
Okay. Now, there's some yuccas along the trail that have the little spines on them, and I noticed they're the identical yuccas that I observed in Copper Canyon in Mexico when I went through there on the train. And that's the one that the Indians, the Tarahumara Indians, were taking a knife and cutting the spines, and they weave these beautiful baskets.
Oh.
And
I don't know that variety.
Yeah, it's up on the main trail. I've seen a bunch of them, and I recognized it.
This has a stem here, you see, and it grows. That's what the plant is. The flower is on.
Yeah, and I think those flowers are edible.
Yes, in fact, the deer love them. The red yucca, they almost entirely eat them all the time.
Yeah, when I was in Mexico, we used to harvest those and saute them.
Oh.
So it's interesting. We're going down the main trail, which splits. One goes to the right, one goes to the left. We're going to go to the left because that's the entrance to the new creek trail. But you can see this is typical hill country, canyon area with a lot of junipers and some, red oaks. And I notice in the fall of the year, when it gets a cold snap through here, the red oaks, the leaves will turn red, and it'll almost remind you in some places of Canada when the maples turn. We're looking toward Devil's Backbone, so it's a typical native hill country area. So we'll head on down and see the creek trail. Okay, we're headed down the trail to go to the new creek trail, and I wanted to point out some of the native grasses. I used to have a couple of longhorns on this place, and what I noticed was that these native grasses are high in nutrition, but they get grazed down very easily, and if you get some good rains, they'll come back, but it's not like a grass that replenishes itself rapidly. Anyway, this is the entrance here to the creek. You can see that it goes down real steep, and when it rains, there's a lot of water runs down this particular creek. And so the new trail is gonna parallel along the creek, and we'll have some good shots. What we've done is cut down a few of the cedar trees and piled them up, so we've got some habitat for some of the animals that inhabit the area. And so here is the beginning of the creek trail. You can see, and you can walk around the main trail for right at a mile, or we can venture off into the creek trail, which gets us into the woods and different view and some nice areas to look at. When we made the creek trail, we piled up some brush piles, and one of the reasons here is not only to provide habitat, but also as the water rushes down the hill, it prevents erosion. So we've got a running pile of young cedar to help that situation. We're looking at a little blue stem grass that's very beneficial. It has long roots, it stabilizes the soil, and reproduces good. And then this here you say is a different blue stem.
I think it's bushy blue stem.
Okay, let me get out of the shadow here. And it's got a
little tassel on it.
Yeah, a little tassel for
That's where it gets its name.
Okay. So you can see the trail meanders through the cedar, and it's easy to walk, and you can see a lot of different things along the way. This is a real pretty area. A cedar grove is going down toward the creek, and as we get a little farther down the hill, we're going to run into some old growth cedar, which is where the warbler, what is the warbler?
Golden cheek.
Golden cheek warbler likes to nest, and in fact, there were some people in here that had recorded the warbler sound, although I was told they didn't actually see it. Now, would this be considered old growth here? This is starting to get pretty big.
Yes.
Okay.
That tree is 75 years old,
Okay.
maybe 100. These are slow-growing trees.
Okay. And so the warbler likes it because it has a lot of this loose bark on it that they...
Yeah, I don't know why. The bark, I guess, is different. It's coarser, it's tougher. On young trees, it's fairly supple.
Right.
I assume they like it for their nests.
Yeah, because if you look here, see how tight these young trees are as opposed to the old ones here.
But you know, I suppose if a bird was making a nest and this was only new growth, it would use that too.
Okay, this is interesting. This is a native fern that's growing in this area that obviously it's getting moisture. There's a spring right behind me that typically has water in it. It's been so dry for so many months that it's not running now, but this is a beautiful area where the spring runs down this hill. And what did you say that this is pretty rare?
Yes, very rare in the hill country. Ferns anywhere in the hill country is rare. This is the only instance on this property that I know of, and there's only two that I know of in the whole of the hill country. One in the gorge and here.
Oh, okay. This is kind of a pretty area. I mean, it drops off, and it's really nice to come down here.
It must be spectacular when the water...
Oh, when the water's running through, and there's like a waterfall right here. Yeah. This is a bush here in the holly family that's very prevalent in the hill country, and a lot of them around the Mail Trail. This is called agarita, and this makes some of the best jelly you've ever had in your life, and also some of the best wine you've ever tasted. What I used to do around March, when the berries are bright red and ready to harvest, I'd put a sheet underneath the bush, and I'd take a stick and beat the bush where the berries would fall off, because the leaves are very thorny, and to try to pick them by hand is quite an ordeal. But this is an excellent plant for making jelly or wine.
This area, because it's deep and dark.
Yeah, deep and dark and humid, and got some... This is a massive area of ferns. You can see coming off the where the waterfall comes down, and it goes all the way down the side, and then there's a big stand of ferns over there, and this is a huge old growth cedar. How would you think that cedar could be there? I mean, that's
Man,
huge.
those are over 100 years, I'm sure.
Uh-huh. And then it goes on down, and this...
And that one's really straight.
I know.
Man, look, you could get cedar boards out of that 10 feet long.
Yeah, you can see this really goes down into the canyon and then hooks up with the main creek down here. This is a nice area looking down to the
go
creek.
Through here at a pretty good speed. Look at how it's cut into the bank.
Yeah, when that water's coming through here, it's hauling at a good speed.
Yeah.
And now this is a lot of old growth cedar down here.
It is.
And I'm sure there's warblers in here, those golden cheek. I just need to spend more time out here. But see, look down there. Sometimes what will happen when you get water is some of these areas of ponds will wash out, and it'll keep water in there for a while.
My property backs on the original Eden's Ranch,
Uh-huh.
and it's got old growth cedar in it too. But I don't know if they've got them as big as that.
Yeah, this is pretty good sized cedar in here.
Yeah, they really are.
Here's a red oak that, because we had a little cold snap, is turning towards fall foliage. And then here we've got another.
Yeah, there's one with all green leaves right beside it.
Yeah, you know, the one with green leaves, some of these will turn brown like this, and others will turn a bright red.
Really?
And from like when you stand up there and you can just see, beautiful red foliage.
I've heard that, but I've never seen a red oak with red leaves like a sugar maple.
Mm-hmm. We're getting down to the bottom of the creek now. What's interesting, it was pointed out, is as the water slows down, some of these stones that over the years have tumbled down, they drop out and form a beautiful creek bottom of some really nice washed stones. There's a wide channel here because the water slows down. Here's the yuccas that I was talking about. There's one with an old bloom on it. There's a group there and a group over there. And if you look at them close, you'll notice that there's some very small spines on the side of those leaves, and the Tarahumara Indians down in Copper Canyon in Mexico will cut these. You'll see them in the train stations. They'll be with a little knife scraping the little spines off, and they'll weave beautiful baskets of all kinds. You can look them up on the internet and just see the beautiful basket work that they do with these. There's a huge stem of the yucca plant that I just pointed out. It's a large, very large plant. This is the one that the Indians in Mexico make the baskets out of. Okay, we're coming back, making the circle on the outer loop trail, and this to the left is the creek trail that we walked all the way to the bottom, and now we're... Okay, let's recap where we've been. We entered down here at the entrance. The outer loop split. We came in here, went into the creek trail, looked at some of the native plants, and then the creek trail turned and went along the ridge here, looking some nice views into the creek. We saw an area that had a lot of ferns in here, and then we went on down and came back on the main road. We looped around, and right in here is where the yucca variety that the Indians in Mexico used to weave baskets. We came around, and now we're back at the parking lot.